I've been to 82 countries in my life. I've been on to every continent except for Antarctica. I've also never been to Greenland, which is an island, but I've never been there. And I've never been to New Zealand, but other than that, I've been into Asia and Africa and Central Asia and Europe, and of course the Americas, North and South. When it comes down to it, every country's got its good points and every country has its bad points. People would say, well, do you feel safe when you're in a country? And I'll say, I'm safe in foreign countries as I am in the United States if I'm in the wrong town at the wrong time at the wrong place. In downtown Seattle, if I'm at the wrong time at night, if I'm at the wrong time of night and in the wrong location, then it's not safe. Pakistan, I spent some time in Pakistan and had a bodyguard with me at all times. The only time that I didn't feel safe was the time that we lost the bodyguard. We went in to have a lunch and came out and the bodyguard was nowhere to be found. And this was not a time when we used cell phones a lot, so tracking him down was difficult, but we tracked him down. Then I also felt a little bit uneasy when we were out in the countryside, and in the countryside, we came to a protest. They were protesting Israel, and you could see down the road, as you look down the road, the protesters marching. And I'm sure in this town, I was the only American in town. We'd gone there to see an agricultural university. We went down the street. We avoided the street with the protest. We went down another street. And as we did, we passed by a wedding, and everybody in the wedding saw us passing, and everybody stared at us. I kept down low. We drove on, went to the university, and really didn't have any issues there. But it was an interesting situation. The more interesting situation on that is, so that was the week before they got bin Laden. And at that time, there were two Americans that had shot, or there was an American that had shot two Pakistanis in an intersection. And he was an American consultant, and that's what I was an American consultant. So the atmosphere was a little bit tense. This guy was now in prison. When I was there, he got out the week after I left because the United States paid a ransom and blood money and offered some passports and visas to his family to come to the United States, their family to come to the United States. So he got out, and as soon as he got out, it came out that he wasn't a consultant, but he actually worked for the CIA. So I was in Pakistan then. About 3 weeks later, I was in Washington, D.C., and while I was in Washington, D.C., they got bin Laden. And my family looks and says, okay, 3 weeks ago you were in Pakistan. Now you're in Washington, D.C., and they got bin Laden. So what do you really do for a living? What were you doing in Pakistan? And I was working on actually mangoes, dried mangoes. And there's a book about mangoes and how some bombs and weapons have been smuggled into a plane load of mangoes. So mangoes, everybody figured that was a key word for espionage or for political. It was with the mangoes. It was a key word, a hidden word, secret word that we used to talk about terrorism and overcoming terrorism. That's not the case, but it was interesting. The timing was interesting. I'd also been in Mongolia. Well, who goes to Mongolia? Nobody goes to Mongolia. And I'd gone to Mongolia, I think, 3 times. And an interesting country. I was there in the winter where it was dark the whole day and dark all night. I went in the springtime where we flew up to up to Lake Baikal, and we had to take a truck ride back, which is about 1,600 kilometers on no roads. That's another story which I'll talk about. But it's interesting, and so I was there, and about 2 weeks later, Secretary of State was there. So again, everybody's like, well, wait a minute, why are you there? And then the Secretary of State's there. Are you like a pre-person going into it? But I can assure you now, looking back on it and looking in the future, it's I had nothing to do with the Secret Service or the CIA or the FBI or any of those agencies. I was a consultant working to help businesses grow. And in Mongolia, that's an interesting story. I'll tell you about that in another video. But, when it comes down, when people say, what is your favorite country? I have to say that Argentina is one of my favorite countries. I've been there several times. I enjoy the wine. I enjoy the steak. I enjoy the culture. Buenos Aires is a beautiful city. I enjoy walking on the Florida Avenue and looking at the shops and the antiques and stuff. I enjoy going to Recoleta, which is the cemetery where Evita is born, or not born, where Evita is buried, the cemetery where Evita is buried. And I enjoy that, and it's fascinating. And I've seen the musical Evita. I can name every song. I can sing every song. You don't want to hear me sing it, but I can do every song from Evita. fascinating story. It's a great story of how one person rises up from poverty, and in this case, they were using their beauty and charm to do it. But they came to the peak, the pinnacle of their success, and then failed and had to leave the country. But and then ultimately she came back and was the president of the country. So fascinating story. Buenos Aires is a great place. Another great place is French Polynesia, and I've been there not on business. I was there on pleasure. We chartered a sailboat with 2 other couples, and we went on the sailboats and sailed around the islands for a number of days. And then we split up, and each went to a different bungalow or into a different hotel or villa. And we got the bungalows with the over the water with the glass floor where you could see glass floor where you could see the sea life underneath your floor. It was the only place. I'm a cat. I'm a Leo. I hate water. I hate getting in cold water. I hate temperature changes. And I have to say, Bora Bora, it truly was like stepping into a bathtub. We had a deck. We were over the water, and you could just step off the deck, and it was just like, it was beautiful. It was wonderful. And they have so many different colors of blue. So I'm from the state of Washington, and Washington is the evergreen state. And particularly in the spring, you can look out. I have a green belt behind us, and you look out and you see the grass, and you see the trees, and you see the bushes, and you can see 1,000 different colors of green. Well, Bora Bora is the same, but it's not green, it's blue. With the ocean and the sky and everything, you see 1,000 different colors of blue, and it's fascinating. So Bora Bora was great. Mongolia was great, and it was fascinating. I really wanted to get back to Mongolia. I wanted to go back and go into the desert there, and the Mongolian high desert, and see the stars. I actually had planned on going at a time where there was no moon or a new moon, so that the sky would be lit up. We tried to go, and we weren't able to go back. We were working with the USAID project, and again, another story on blueberries, but it didn't work out to where we got to go back, and it's probably a place that I'll never be able to make it back to. One of the things that's interesting that I did buy there, so Mongolia, they're in Mongolia, and you're in a place that is the farthest away from any ocean in the world. And while I'm there, I'm going to the markets, and in the market, I got a bracelet for my wife that was made from seashells. So here we are, the furthest place away from the ocean, and there's a bracelet made from seashells. Well, Mongolia was it's tied to, but it wasn't on, but it was tied to the Silk Road, and there was a lot of trade and travel going across there. So who knows what the history to this one bracelet that I bought her was. I regret that I didn't buy a shell. There was some shells, some conch type shells that were laid with silver. And I just didn't want to spend the money. I didn't have the money. And I kind of kicked myself because it would be a fascinating thing to own.